The Red Cross Betrayal. The medical frigate Hippocrates drifted silently through the amber nebula surrounding Kordax Prime, its gleaming white hull emblazoned with the ancient symbol that had followed humanity to the stars. A red cross against a field of white. The ship was a testament to human ingenuity, designed not for war, but for healing, part of the interstellar medical corps that had become humanity's most respected contribution to galactic society. Dr. Maya Reeves stood at the viewport, watching the alien world grow larger as they approached. She tucked a strand of her dark hair behind her ear and took a deep breath. The blue-green planet below was home to the Kordax, a species that had been reluctant to accept outside help despite the mysterious plague ravaging their population. "Beautiful, isn't it?" Captain Thomas said, stepping beside her. "Hard to believe they were shooting at our diplomatic vessels just 3 years ago." Maya nodded. "That's why this mission matters. When words failed, medicine succeeded. The Galactic Council said the Kordax would never trust humans. That's what we do best, Doctor," Thomas replied with a smile. "Prove them wrong." The Interstellar Medical Corps had grown from humble beginnings on Earth to become the most respected humanitarian organization in known space. While Earth's military might remain formidable, it was our healers who had truly changed how other species perceived humanity. Where others conquered, humans healed. Where others dominated, humans served. "Incoming transmission from command," the communications officer announced, her voice cutting through Maya's thoughts. Captain Thomas frowned. "Put it through." Admiral Hassan's hologram flickered into existence, his expression grave. "Captain, I'm ordering immediate evacuation of all medical personnel. We've lost contact with 3 facilities in the outer Kordax colonies. Before communications went dark, we received disturbing footage." "What kind of footage, sir?" Thomas asked, his shoulders tensing. "Kordax military forces attacking our medical stations. No provocation, no warning. They're targeting our personnel specifically." Maya felt her blood run cold. "That's impossible. We're treating their people. Their leaders signed the Geneva Accords." "I know, Doctor," the Admiral replied, his voice cracking slightly. "But the evidence is irrefutable. All ships are to withdraw to safe distance immediately while we attempt diplomatic resolution." The bridge fell silent as the transmission ended. Captain Thomas turned to his crew. "Calculate emergency departure vectors. Begin evacuation procedures for all groundside personnel." Maya gripped the railing. "We have 42 staff in the central hospital. They're mid-procedure with critical patients." "I'm sorry, Doctor. Orders air." The ship lurched violently, throwing them against the bulkheads. Warning alarms blared as the tactical officer shouted, "Kordax defense batteries targeting us. Shields at 60%. "How is this possible?" Thomas demanded. "They don't have our shield frequencies." Through the viewport, Maya watched defense turrets rising from hidden bunkers around the landing zone. "They knew we were coming," she whispered. "They planned this." The next hit took out their propulsion system. As emergency lighting bathed the bridge in crimson, Maya's last thought before the final barrage struck was of her team below. Healers who had come to save lives, now facing those they'd sworn to help. The news reached Earth within hours. The footage from the few surviving medical staff was broadcast across every settlement from Luna to the Mars colonies. Humanity watched in horror as medical personnel were gunned down while tending patients, their white uniforms stained crimson, hospitals purposely targeted, wounded executed. Those taken prisoner paraded before cameras, their frightened faces the last images their families would ever see. In United Earth headquarters beneath Geneva, the Security Council convened an emergency session. 14 ships lost, over 2,000 medical personnel dead or captured. General Winters reported, her voice steadied despite the horror of the numbers. "The Kordax are jamming all communication with prisoners. Our intelligence suggests they're being held in research facilities." President Alvarez closed his eyes briefly. "And their justification? They're claiming our medical teams were collecting genetic samples to develop bioweapons tailored to Kordax physiology. They presented this narrative to the Galactic Council as justification for preventative defense. "That's absurd," Science Director Okafor interjected. "The Interstellar Medical Corps operates under complete transparency. All research data is publicly available. The Kordax know that." Intelligence Director Liang said quietly, "This wasn't a misunderstanding. Our analysts believe this was planned from the beginning, to gain access to our medical technology while eliminating our personnel." Silence fell across the chamber as the implications sank in. "Send diplomatic envoys," President Alvarez finally ordered. "Request immediate return of our people. Make it clear there will be severe consequences otherwise." General Winters shifted uncomfortably. "Mr. President, I must inform you that we've received unusual requests from several military commanders." "What requests?" "They're asking for Operation Nemesis to be activated." The room temperature seemed to drop several degrees. "Absolutely not," Alvarez said firmly. "We are not those people anymore. We will resolve this diplomatically." Director Liang cleared his throat. "Sir, preliminary intelligence suggests the Kordax have already begun dissecting captured medical personnel. Alive." The president's face hardened. "Continue diplomatic efforts, but prepare our fleets." 3 days later, the Kordax response came in the form of public executions. 15 Terran doctors broadcast live across the galaxy as they were systematically dissected by Kordax scientists, their screams eventually silenced as vital organs were removed for study. The Galactic Council, traditionally quick to condemn human aggression, remained conspicuously silent. Intercepted communications revealed several council members had been approached by Kordax diplomats with offers of human medical technology in exchange for political support. In the depths of the Security Council chamber, President Alvarez stared at the empty space where the transmission had played. "They've executed our diplomats as well," Director Liang reported quietly. "The Kordax Supreme Leader claims humans were planning to weaponize medical knowledge against the entire galaxy. Some species are believing them." General Winters stood rigidly at attention. "Sir, conventional military response will result in significant casualties on both sides. The Kordax have prepared for this. They've fortified their medical facilities, knowing we'll hesitate to destroy them while our people might still be inside." "What are you suggesting, General?" "Operation Nemesis, sir." Alvarez shook his head. "Those men and women were imprisoned for crimes against humanity, atrocities committed during the Unification Wars. They're monsters." "Yes, sir," Winters agreed. "But they're our monsters. And right now, we need monsters." Director Liang slid a data pad forward. "We've confirmed that Dr. Maya Reeves is among those being held at their central research facility. Latest intelligence suggests she's being kept alive because her immunological research is particularly valuable to them. If anyone has a chance of rescuing her and the others, it's the Nemesis operatives. And if I refuse, then we send in conventional forces, sir. We'll win eventually, but the cost will be high, and most prisoners will likely be eliminated before we reach them." President Alvarez stared at the data pad for a long moment. Then he pressed his palm against it, authorizing the one order he had sworn never to give. "God help us all," he whispered. Deep beneath the surface of Antarctica, in a facility that didn't officially exist, 12 cryogenic pods began their awakening sequence. These weren't ordinary soldiers. They were the darkest chapter of humanity's unification. Commanders, specialists, and operatives whose methods had been deemed too extreme, even during humanity's bloodiest internal conflicts. Commander Adrian Shaw was the first to emerge, his pale blue eyes adjusting quickly to the sterile brightness as medical technicians monitored his vitals. "How long?" he asked, his voice raspy from disuse. 32 years, the chief technician replied, unable to meet his gaze. Shaw nodded once. "Why wake us?" A military officer stepped forward, bearing the insignia of Earth's unified command. "Terran medical ships have been attacked unprovoked. Thousands of doctors and nurses killed. Those captured are being publicly executed and dissected." Something cold and terrible flickered in Shaw's eyes. The enemy. Kordax. They'd barricaded themselves on their homeworld and colonies. Conventional military response would result in unacceptable casualties on both sides. And you need someone to do the unacceptable, Shaw concluded. It wasn't a question. We need the prisoners extracted if possible. Beyond that, the President has authorized complete operational freedom. Shaw's thin lips curved into something that resembled a smile but held no warmth. Wake the others. We'll need specialized equipment and information. Everything you have on Kordax physiology, psychology, and culture. You have it all. The officer hesitated. And Commander, there's something else you should know. The Kordax chose their targets deliberately. They went after our medical ships because they feared us. Not our military, but our capacity for healing. They feared we would make allies of the entire galaxy through compassion. Shaw stood, stretching muscles that hadn't moved in decades. Then we'll show them what they should have feared instead. The surgical strike. Within 48 hours, unmarked ships departed Earth carrying the Nemesis operatives. They carried no flags, bore no identification, and traveled alone. These weren't military vessels. They were hunter craft, designed for stealth and precision. As they vanished into FTL, General Winters stood in the command center, watching the tracking signals disappear one by one. "May God forgive us," she murmured. Beside her, Director Liang watched the screens impassively. God has nothing to do with what's coming. The first sign that something had changed came 3 days later, when the Kordax Minister of Defense failed to arrive for the Supreme Leader's War Council. His personal guards found him in his private chambers, positioned as if asleep in his resting pool, except his eyes had been surgically removed with remarkable precision and placed in his hands. A small human medical insignia had been painted on his forehead with his own biochemical equivalent of blood. No alarms had been triggered. No intruders detected. The entire compound security footage showed nothing unusual except for 3 seconds of static on a single camera. That same night, 5 other high-ranking officials connected to the attacks on human medical ships disappeared from heavily guarded compounds across the Kordax homeworld. 3 were found arranged in positions mimicking those of the executed human doctors. 2 were never found at all. Fear rippled through the Kordax leadership. Additional guards were posted. Security protocols tightened. It made no difference. The Supreme Leader's chief military advisor was addressing the council when the lights flickered briefly. When they stabilized, he continued speaking until one of the council members screamed. A red cross had appeared on the advisor's neck, drawn with surgical precision. He reached up, confused, then collapsed as the delayed action neurotoxin took effect. Panic spread across Kordax Prime like wildfire. The beings who had enthusiastically supported the attack on human medical personnel now found themselves jumping at shadows. Their own advanced security systems seemed useless against whatever was hunting them. It wasn't war. There were no armies, no fleets, no honor, just silence followed by precisely targeted death. In the central research facility beneath the Kordax capital, Dr. Maya Reeves endured her 4th week of captivity. They hadn't tortured her. They needed her intact, needed her knowledge. Instead, they forced her to watch as they experimented on her colleagues, promising her own fate would be less painful if she cooperated. She had given them nothing. The Kordax chief scientist, Zortak, entered her cell flanked by guards. "Your persistence is admirable, Doctor, but ultimately futile. Today we begin testing the neural interface. Your knowledge will be ours, with or without your cooperation." Maya looked up, her face gaunt but her eyes clear. "You've made a fundamental error in your calculations." "Oh." The scientist seemed amused. "Please enlighten me. You thought humans were dangerous because of our technology, our medicine, our ability to make allies. But that's not why the galaxy fears us." Zortak gestured dismissively. "Your military is formidable but conventional. We prepared for it." "Not them," Maya said quietly. "The ones we keep locked away. The ones we're ashamed of. You should have asked yourselves why a species supposedly so aggressive keeps its most effective killers imprisoned. The scientists' facial membranes fluttered, a sign of irritation. More human mythology. Your reinforcements are blockaded. Your diplomats are dead. The Galactic Council has abandoned you. We didn't call for reinforcements, Maya said. And God help you all, because I think they've sent the monsters instead. Before Zortak could respond, the facility's alarms blared. The guards' communication devices erupted with frantic reports. Secure the prisoner, the scientist ordered, rushing from the cell. Through the transparent barrier, Maya watched chaos unfold in the corridor. Guards rushed past, weapons ready. Then the lights went out, plunging the facility into darkness. The emergency systems kicked in moments later, bathing everything in dim red light. What happened next occurred in fragments, screams echoing through ventilation systems, weapons fire that abruptly ceased, and silence more terrifying than any noise. When the lights returned, the corridor outside was empty except for a single human figure approaching her cell. Commander Shaw deactivated the barrier with a security code he shouldn't have known. Dr. Reeves, I'm here to extract you. Maya stared at the man, compact, efficient, with eyes that seemed to belong to something ancient and predatory. Who are you? Someone they should have left frozen. Shaw handed her a small medical kit. Can you walk? Yes, but there are others. 28 medical personnel still alive in the lower levels. Shaw touched his earpiece. Hayden, Russo, Sullivan. 28 packages in sublevel 3. He looked back at Maya. They'll be extracted. We have 90 seconds before the next security patrol. Move. As they navigated the facility, Maya noticed the absence of bodies. Where are the guards? We don't leave evidence, Shaw replied simply. Or witnesses. Nemesis, Maya realized, the pieces falling into place. They actually activated Operation Nemesis. Shaw's expression didn't change. The extraction ship is 2 kilometers east. The distractions across the planet should keep their attention divided. Distractions. The Kordax leadership is experiencing personnel issues across their territories. Carefully orchestrated chaos unfolded. Communication centers failed simultaneously across 3 continents. Power grids collapsed without explanation. Military commanders received contradictory orders that appeared to come from highest authority. Transport systems routed military responses to phantom threats. It wasn't just assassination. It was psychological warfare waged by specialists who understood that terror was more effective than brute force. The Kordax had expected armies. Instead, they got ghosts who knew their systems, their psychology, their deepest fears. Defensive positions found their water supplies tainted with compounds that induced hallucinations. Command centers received doctored footage showing their own troops firing on civilians. Seeds of paranoia planted with surgical precision. By the time Shaw and his team had extracted all surviving medical personnel and departed the system, the Kordax government was in shambles. The supreme leader found himself unable to trust his own military. Strategic commands went unheeded as officers feared they were traps. The entire society, which had so enthusiastically embraced the attack on human medics, now tasted the particular terror of an invisible, implacable enemy that struck without warning and vanished without trace. 3 weeks later, in the rebuilt United Earth headquarters, President Alvarez received a communication from the new Kordax leadership, the third governing body to attempt to restore order. They're surrendering, General Winters reported, disbelief evident in her voice. Unconditionally, they're offering to return all stolen medical technology and research data. They're requesting permission to hand over everyone involved in planning the original attacks. And their conditions? The president asked. Just one, sir. They want assurances that the ones who hunt in darkness will be recalled. The Galactic Council convened an emergency session the following day. Species that had remained silent during the Kordax attacks on human medical ships now scrambled to reaffirm their commitment to the Geneva Accords. Several who had been discovered to have accepted stolen human medical technology found themselves facing severe sanctions. Maya Reeves stood before the council as the new director of the Interstellar Medical Corps. The wounds on her body had healed. The ones on her soul would take longer. Humanity reaffirms its commitment to healing, she told the assembled delegates. Our ships will continue to answer all distress calls. Our personnel will continue to treat any being in need, regardless of species or politics. She paused, her gaze sweeping the chamber. But let today mark a new understanding. The Red Cross we bear is not a symbol of weakness. It is not a target. It is a privilege we extend to the galaxy. A commitment that says we will use our knowledge to heal rather than harm. Those who mistake this choice for vulnerability make a grave error. In the shadows of the gallery, Commander Shaw watched impassively as the Council voted unanimously to strengthen protections for medical personnel throughout the galaxy. New protocols were established, new safeguards implemented. When the session ended, General Winters approached him. "It's time to go back, Commander." Shaw nodded once, his eyes lingering on Dr. Reeves as she spoke with various delegates. "Did we do the right thing, General?" Winters followed his gaze. "They attacked our healers. We showed them why that was a mistake. The galaxy now understands there are lines that must not be crossed. And us. What does the galaxy understand about humanity's monsters? That we keep them locked away," Winters replied quietly. "Until they're needed." As Shaw and his team returned to their frozen slumber beneath the Antarctic ice, a new doctrine quietly circulated among the galaxy's military strategists. When facing humans in combat, target their soldiers, not their healers. The former fight with honor and can be defeated. The latter are protected by something far worse, by those humanity keeps chained but never destroyed. The universal symbol of the Red Cross took on a new meaning across the stars. No longer simply a promise of help, it carried a warning. "Here walk healers. Touch them at your peril."